And I said to you guys that this is not a clean game. It's not a clean game. And that a lot of people that you see in media espousing these views, a lot of them are being paid to do so. We've already done the show where Shannon Sharpe was accused on live television. And from that moment on, there has been this push by LeBron's cronies in media to try to make it seem like this is a real thing. You've had personalities like Shannon Sharpe, Wright, Colin Cowherd, Kendrick Perkins, and so many journalists and writers for some of these sports publications like ESPN, The Athletic, Bleacher Report, all putting out these similar lists.
The debate about who the real greatest of all time is has become less about facts and more about influence. In today's episode, Charles Tabansi and Stephen A. Smith are pulling back the curtain on what they claim is one of the biggest manipulation tactics in basketball history. They argue that the GOAT talk around LeBron James is not organic. It's crafted, pushed, and sold to a younger audience who may not have even watched Michael Jordan play. From shady media lists to pressure from Clutch Sports, they say it's all part of a larger machine. If you're tired of media bias and want the unfiltered truth, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to NBA Showdown, and turn on notifications so you never miss a breakdown like this. Charles Tabansi kicks things off by mocking the logic of how LeBron James supposedly skyrocketed into the GOAT conversation after the 2016 NBA Finals. According to him, it is outrageous to claim that a single championship win, even one as historic as beating the Warriors, automatically pushes someone into the same tier as Michael Jordan. Charles is pointing out how quickly the narrative shifted. He believes it was not a natural progression, but a forced elevation. The idea that one serious win could suddenly push LeBron ahead of legends who have built dynasties and redefined eras just does not add up for him. What Charles is really exposing is the weakness in the criteria being used. Instead of evaluating an entire career, people are cherry-picking moments to create a dramatic storyline. He sees this as the first clear sign that something artificial is going on behind the scenes.
Then in 2016, he won that championship against the Warriors, and all of a sudden LeBron went from being like a top 10 player, all of a sudden he's next to Michael Jordan. He passed Tim Duncan, he passed Larry Bird, he passed Magic Johnson, he passed Kobe Bryant, he passed Shaq, he passed everybody.
Charles then goes deeper, calling out specific media personalities like Wright, Shannon Sharpe, and Kendrick Perkins. He accuses them of pushing this LeBron over Jordan narrative as if it is an objective truth. For Charles, it's not just bad takes, it's part of a calculated strategy. He believes these figures are not acting independently, but are part of a coordinated push from within LeBron's circle to flood the airwaves with GOAT propaganda. The problem, he suggests, is that these journalists are shaping public opinion based not on basketball merit, but on allegiance and influence. The fact that they all echo similar talking points is no coincidence to Charles. It's a red flag. He wants viewers to realize that what may look like genuine analysis is actually a well-rehearsed media campaign. The goal? To replace Jordan with LeBron in the minds of younger fans who did not live through the Jordan era.
And from that moment on, there has been this push by LeBron's cronies in media to try to make it seem like this is a real thing. You've had personalities like Shannon Sharpe, Wright, Colin Cowherd, Kendrick Perkins, and so many journalists and writers for some of these sports publications like ESPN, The Athletic, Bleacher Report, all putting out these similar lists.
Charles takes the gloves off by making a bold claim. This is not a clean debate, it is a dirty game. He insists that many of the faces you see on sports networks are not offering real opinions. According to him, they are being paid or influenced behind closed doors to elevate LeBron at every opportunity. Charles specifically points to Shannon Sharpe, whom he believes is less of a commentator and more of a spokesperson for LeBron's agenda. What makes this claim even more powerful is how Charles frames it. This is not just favoritism, it is manipulation of the narrative to a dishonest degree. The people pushing the LeBron GOAT argument are not just wrong in Charles's eyes, they are knowingly misleading the public. He views this as an attack on the integrity of sports media itself. When opinions are for sale, the truth becomes the biggest casualty.
And I said to you guys that this is not a clean game. It's not a clean game. And that a lot of people that you see in media espousing these views, a lot of them are being paid to do so. We've already done the show where Shannon Sharpe was accused on live television.
Stephen A. Smith takes the mic and delivers one of the most direct criticisms of the LeBron James narrative machine. He acknowledges LeBron's greatness, but he's not letting that cloud the reality of what he believes is happening behind closed doors. Smith accuses the clutch sports media ecosystem of putting pressure on journalists and analysts for years to shape public perception. This is no light accusation. He is saying that respected media platforms have been leveraged to force a narrative, not encourage debate, not compare legacies, but compel the audience to accept LeBron as the GOAT. Smith's point is that other legends like Kareem, Kobe, Bill Russell, and even Jordan himself never tried to manipulate the media in this way. They let their careers speak. In contrast, LeBron's camp, he claims, has spent years working behind the scenes to engineer a storyline that benefits their guy. This takes the GOAT debate from passion to propaganda.
ESPN First Take featuring Kendrick Perkins, Stephen A. Smith, Michael Wilbon. I'm not sure if Brian Windhorst was there. They were discussing this very issue. And as they were talking about it, Michael Wilbon gave his speech. And then he said, I can think of nothing negative to say about LeBron James. There's nothing negative to say. So after he finished speaking, Kendrick Perkins spoke. And then Stephen A. Smith started off with, I can think of a lot of things to say. And then he went on to expose how the clutch sports machine has been pressuring journalists and analysts for years to say LeBron James is the GOAT.
Stephen A. continues, and this time he draws a line between confidence and coercion. He reflects on how LeBron and his camp have tried to engineer support for him as the greatest by loudly and repeatedly branding him as such. Again, Smith compares LeBron's actions with past icons who never crowned themselves. For Smith, this self-declaration is where LeBron crosses a line. When legends like Tim Duncan, Wilt Chamberlain, or even Michael Jordan were asked about being the best, they often deflected. They spoke with humility and let fans or analysts decide. But LeBron's insistence on calling himself the GOAT and having that echoed by his team, his friends, and his media allies seems calculated. Smith suggests it is less about legacy and more about controlling the narrative. And that, to him, is inauthentic. It's not just about being great on the court anymore. It's about forcing greatness into the public mind.
They were trying to compel people to say he was the greatest. Michael Jordan didn't say that about himself. Kobe Bryant didn't say that about himself. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar didn't say that about himself. Bill Russell didn't say that about himself. Tim Duncan didn't say that about himself. Nobody said that. Nobody but him and his camp. Steph Curry hasn't said that about himself. Steph Curry has never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Ray Allen never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Reggie Miller never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Allen Houston never called himself the greatest shooter of all time. Nobody called themselves the greatest in anything but that man and his camp.
Charles Tabansi wraps it up by identifying what he believes is the most dangerous part of this whole situation, the dishonesty. He says that the individuals driving the GOAT narrative for LeBron James are not interested in real debate or basketball history. Instead, he calls them grifters, opportunists who will say anything for engagement, clicks, and influence. Charles is especially critical of how this manufactured narrative targets younger fans, those who didn't witness Michael Jordan in real time. By filling their screens with repetition and flashy rhetoric, the media machine convinces them that LeBron is undeniably the GOAT, not because of analysis, but because that's all they see. Charles argues that this is a deliberate strategy to rewrite basketball history while older fans who know better are drowned out. In his eyes, this is not just dishonest, it's dangerous for the culture of the sport itself.
I also believe that these lot of personalities, whatever you want to call them, are by far the most dishonest set of people we've seen in sports media probably ever. Because what they do is they go out there and they grift and they say anything that they feel will gain them traction with younger fans.
So what are we really witnessing here? According to both Charles Tabansi and Stephen A. Smith, this GOAT debate is no longer about basketball accomplishments or legacy. It's about power, media influence, and how far a group of insiders will go to control the narrative. The clutch sports media machine, they argue, is using modern platforms to bypass logic in basketball history, selling a product to young fans who might not know better. Whether you agree or disagree, one thing is clear: the debate has been hijacked, and that's why it's more important than ever to think critically, revisit the history, and question everything. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe to NBA Showdown, and let us know in the comments, is this GOAT narrative manufactured, or is LeBron truly worthy?